How soon have any of our recurring victims and accomplices here? This guy is the pride of all things Cuyahoga and the Cleveland region. He's been doing sports media for 38-plus years now, dwarfing my 25-plus years here in Baltimore. He is always there to defend the land. He is Mark Munch Bishop. You can find him at Munch Cleveland and at WTAM 1100 out in all things the land of Cleve. They're licking their wounds a little bit out there from the Cavalier thing, but hey, Tribe's got it going in the right direction. They went out to Minnesota, took care of business all weekend, and now they're in here trying to beat us up a little bit, Munch.
Well, you know what, bro? It should be a fun series. Always enjoy it when the Indians are in Baltimore. But the bottom line is this. You know what? The wounds already healed with the Cavaliers. I mean, people were more disappointed than anything because the Cavs handed a couple of games to Golden State. You cannot make the mistakes they made in two of the games. But the bottom line is, here's the only problem. Everybody flipping out now. Trade this guy, trade that guy, get this guy. Of course, you know the name that everybody wants to ship off, and to ship off a double-double guy just like that, and Kevin Love is flat out ridiculous. But about time the Indians flexed. I understand that the Twins had problems with pitching. Well, guess what? The Indians have problems with pitching right now, too, because Danny Salazar is still on the shelf, and Corey Kluber just coming back. So on Saturday, there was a doubleheader. We tossed two guys who just came from AAA. They tossed two guys that just came from AAA. And there was one big difference, Nestor. His name was Edwin Encarnacion. Not just knocking the cover off the ball. Love his swing. So compact and pretty. But I also like home runs that you could watch. You know, those laser shots are fun sometimes. He hits those majestic home runs. Hit 3 into the upper deck in Minnesota this past weekend, and he's carrying the club offensively with help from a bunch of other guys, too, but he's been the main catalyst.
You know, I'm not immune to watching baseball in October, and I saw what Cleveland accomplished last year, and, you know, you and I get together 5-6 times a year, and we discuss these things as well as the Browns, and half the time we wind up talking more Indians or Cavs because they're more relevant, and certainly the same would be said for you doing radio every day in Cleveland, but, you know, I still look at the Indians as sort of this little engine that could, and that last year, I don't want to call it fluky, but I don't think anybody there is resigned to we're one of the powers of the American League at this point. And I think this is a real tribute to what the organization's done over the last 5 to 8 years, beginning with our Baltimore guy, Mark Shapiro, who's now up running the Blue Jays. But, you know, building a foundation, bringing in Tito, and then in the offseason, spending money, which I thought was wisely on Encarnacion, and I think they've been very wise about how they spent their money. And I almost had to laugh out loud at you, Munch, when you say you have pitching problems. You think you got pitching problems. You know, around here, I don't, you know, it's not something that's correctable. You know, you guys can look at Kluber and you can look at some of these guys, Tomlin, and guys you got at the bottom and say, well, maybe it'll get better. Around here, we don't see a whole lot of hope for Gausman, and certainly not for Tillman on the health side. And lo and behold, Ubaldo Jimenez comes out on Sunday and throws the kind of game that everybody knows he's capable of throwing. But I feel like if he's only going to do that once every 6 times out, what's the point?
Doesn't he drive you crazy? Because there's so many moving parts. But again, I'll say this, is that when the Indians traded for him, it was a great trade. And the bottom line is without him, we don't sniff. The wild card is still the playoffs, even though Kenny Lofton says it is not. We don't even sniff that. But he ticks you off more than most because you see what he can do. You see the stuff that he has, and you know it's between the ears, and it just drives you crazy. You can harness it. Now, a guy that you're not going to see, he pitched yesterday, Trevor Bauer, the youngster. He's a punk rocker. There's no way to describe him, Nestor. Guys from Arizona called me when we got him and said, you know what, the kid's going to win the Cy Young someday, and who knows what he's going to do. He's going to go stage diving the night of and break an arm or something like that.
Wild thing, you make my heart sing, right?
Yeah, baby, amen. And that is him to the ultimate. So you're going to miss him. But the thing is this, is that the bats are starting to come alive. There's no reason they shouldn't. Guys whose names you might not even know. Lonnie Chisenhall is starting to tattoo the ball, and you're going to get to see Corey Kluber, one of the best in the business, say, no nonsense. If you see him show any emotion, text me immediately because we still haven't seen it in a couple of years, but that's okay as long as he keeps winning games. The unflappable Corey Kluber.
I am a big fan of Frankie Lindor, and I know we have our own, left side of the infield issues here with Machado batting .219. There's a growth period, I think, for all of these young players. The Orioles are certainly battling through that right now with Machado and trying to figure it out. And let's be honest, we only got about 15 more months left in his run here in Baltimore, and someone's going to pay him hundreds of millions of dollars. Lindor has really scuffled of late, right? I looked up last time we saw you guys. He was batting like .320. Now he's batting .250. He must really have been in the tank here the last month.
You know, and here's the problem. Is he hitting home runs? Yes. Is he not hitting anything else? No, he's not hitting a lick any other time out. Now, last year, you saw what you're going to get out of him. Half of the year before, he is a special, special player, but scuffling. If you notice, Tito is moving him around the line. If you're saying, oh, don't do that to a guy struggling. No, Tito is, we've heard of puppet master. Tito is the lineup master because, hey, I'll put him lead off to get him more at-bats. I'll move him between this guy and this guy to protect him. But and his glove has been as good as it ever been. But right now, no, he just he needs to buy a hit. Somebody else that needs to buy some hits too, Carlos Santana, has just been abysmal. Playing a pretty good first base, but my gosh, that's not why he's on the team.
Do you harbor thoughts that they're going to win a World Series this year? I mean, do you go to bed every night thinking they could, should, might win the World Series?
You know what? I will say they could. Should's a little. I mean, who knows? What is going to happen on a stretch? Does somebody get hot? I mean, right now, if you look at publications before, and I always try to share it with the fans that blind squirrels even find acorns. Well, now they're dumping a little bit, but in some major publications, ones that I respect, is that Minnesota was supposed to be the worst team in the American League this year. The Yankees were supposed to be in last place in the AL East. Toronto was supposed to run away with the division. So you're seeing things like that. So, again, I won't say should. They very well could be. I do expect them. I will say should win the AL Central, and from there we'll see what happens.
He is Munch Bishop. You can follow his journey at Munch Cleveland out in the land of Cleve, where they attempted to defend the land out there, and now it's really all up to the baseball team now, though, right? As much as I ask you if you're harboring thoughts of winning a World Series or being involved. Look, the Astros are running. The Yankees and the Red Sox are trying to run away, and I think all of these teams are going to make deals as we get closer up onto the deadline. Munch, what's in the future for the Indians here the next 6 weeks? Where do they need help, and where do you think they're going to find it? And I know they've not been an organization that likes to deal out of their minor league organization.
Well, bro, I'll tell you what, 3 names, and I keep hearing from the hallowed halls, as we like to call it, of the Indian executive offices on the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, downtown Cleveland, are Chris Archer, Sonny Gray, and Garrett Cole. So they definitely want to bolster the pitching staff. The guys there still, they have the mindset of a Mark Shapiro. I'll never forget Shapiro telling me years ago that if he had the 95 Braves pitching staff, he still would have added pitching to that. Kind of interesting because in 2007, after the Indians had a 3-1 lead over the Red Sox, and he had a blank check to add a pitcher, he never did, okay? And he didn't add one in the offseason. But it's going to be pitching. Dude, wait till you see our young center fielder, Bradley Zimmer. The dude is big, okay? He looks like he should be a Harold Carmichael type wide receiver.
We saw Aaron Judge here last week, so we're familiar with big outfielders, yes.
Yeah, so you're going to see him, and he just we've got great young bats. We've got so much outfield depth. They're going to have to part with 1 or 2 guys here as guys get healthy. But the bottom line is, I've been hearing pitching.
Munch, it is summertime here, and we hope it's quiet for both of our organizations on the police blotter here for the next 6 weeks, and certainly on the injury front in the offseason. But any signs of hope from your football team out there? I mean, I know we'll have more time to discuss this in the fall. I mean, around here last week, we had a big to-do. I mean, we had a couple of huge injuries. Then we go out and sign Jeremy Maclin. So, it was big doings around here for June in the Ravens organization. But I feel like we got better. I mean, has there been any sign of life here in the offseason this team can win 6 games this year?
Well, I'm going to take it away from the fans, out of their hands, because, again, if we still sell out the place going 1-15, they've been drinking the brown and orange Kool-Aid, and they will continue to. I still don't trust.
Don't drink the brown
guys.
Kool-Aid. That's a bad idea. Yeah.
I still don't trust the guys picking the talent because they're not football guys. They had a Grigson from Indianapolis after, of course, draft and everything was complete. But the bottom line is this: is that I got to see these guys. They're telling us things. Oh, by the way, Myles Garrett pulled up lame after 2 practices and saw him at the airport on Friday in a walking boot. And they say he's expected to be back for training camp. Well, you know what? Is expected or going to be there? Is that the case? That was his same ankle and foot that he had injured last year at Texas A&M. So at least you're scratching your head. One thing, quarterback position has not been addressed. Hugh Jackson has no idea who it's going to be. In fact, he said he may have to have 5 Mai Tais one night during this break and decide the quarterback. They're high on Deshaun Kaiser, but again, 4-8 last year at Notre Dame. Say anything you want. Kelly's a bad coach. Yeah, he is. He lost a lot of guys. Yes, he did. But elite quarterbacks, if he lost 7 of those 8 games by a combined 32 points, doesn't that elite quarterback score at least 1 or 2 more touchdowns in that game? Have 1 touchdown wins those games. So that frightens me. Offensive line should be better with Treader and the guard from Cincinnati. They have neglected the wide receivers in the biggest way. We joke. They don't want to even look at Macklin. Oh, bingo. Guess what? Macklin's going to sign with you guys. They had cast an eye towards Eric Decker. They moved too slow. Now he's a Tennessee Titan. Oh, and our leading receiver right now looks like Corey Coleman, but, he was hurt and hasn't practiced yet this year either. There's still a lot of holes, bro. Greg Williams with defense, he promised it would be better, but promise is one thing back up. Nestor, I'm going to say this and say much. Wow, you're kind of hard on him. Fans are telling me, talk about the Kool-Aid, bro. Well, if they go 2-14, 3-13, they improved. That is a bunch of you-know-what, my friend. Until they go 9-7, don't talk to me about them.
Yeah, well, finding good football players in the last administration, I remember talking to you 2-3 years ago, and Hayden was in his prime, and Mack was the center, and Thomas still had something left, and Gibson. You had some guys there that you felt like were emerging to some degree, but they never got the quarterback right. Clearly, I don't think they have the owner right, Munch, and, I'm releasing the Peter Principles here this summer for all Oriole fans to learn 25 years of the history of all of this. I would say in recent times for the Browns, this Jimmy Haslam thing, until they get that figured out, I feel like it's the same situation up in Buffalo where the owners don't really know what they're doing. And if the owners don't, look at the Redskins. If the owner doesn't know what he's doing and can't keep it together there, you can have a real hard time winning. And that's my concern there. But, Munch, if I were on the air in Cleveland, and, I'm not, but I can be anytime you invite me, I would wonder over the 16 games this year what you really think is going to happen with the quarterback situation. Where here...
Well, I can tell you right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Osweiler will win the starting job by default. And within a month, Deshaun Kaiser, who they're very, very high on and going gaga-goo-go over, that he'll be their starter.
So you think Osweiler plays 4 games, 5 games? Kaiser's going to quarterback?
At least 4, because guess what? We've got Pittsburgh, Cincy, and Baltimore in those first 4. I don't think they're going to throw a rookie to any of those 3 teams.
Everybody I've talked to in Cleveland so far this week, Munch, including you, has already quoted the September schedule. It's like you guys have already kind of figured out, like, this thing could go real bad real quick inside the division before the leaves even change.
I did a schedule game. We have to. That's what we have to do here in Cleveland. And at best, with a couple of breaks, I have them at 4-12, and that doesn't make me very happy.
Well, nor should it. We were a little worried about our place around here until Jeremy Macklin showed up last week. He is Mark Munch Bishop. He's one of our recurring friends here from the land of Cleve. 38-plus years doing it out there. You can find him at Munch Cleveland on Twitter. All right, last thing. I saved the Cavs for last because I know you've been talking a lot about it. We began our conversation with it, but I don't know what the league is going to do to catch up with the Warriors when you have a team that's that good. And I know the league really has some problems right now through the playoffs where everything's chalk. I mean, we could sit here and talk about the Indians or the Red Sox or the Yankees or the Astros or all of these other teams in baseball that would have a chance. Boy, in the NBA, there was no one I talked to all year long that if I would have given them $1 East, $1 West, they would have said, all right, it'll be Cleveland and Golden State will win. And that's exactly the way it came down. It almost feels a little predetermined. In the case of Cleveland shaking things up this offseason with Love, or, I know our old Baltimore friend Carmelo Anthony's been rumored. I mean, let's be honest. This is a players' league. LeBron is now the GM of the team for the next 60 to 90 days, and he shall recruit whomever he feels like he wants to go and play basketball with in the fall. I mean, that's where your franchise is. Quite frankly, that was where your franchise was when Gilbert took out the full-page ad the day after LeBron took his talents to Miami, right? I mean, LeBron runs the place, and if he does a good job of recruiting this offseason, maybe you got a better chance next year than you had this year.
Nestor, I got to share this with you. I love doing things like that. You would be shocked the number of players that have contacted LeBron.
Oh, no doubt.
Because, you know what, they quote-unquote, as one of them said to me, I don't like this Golden State thing, okay? And I want to be a part of what could tear them down. Well, right now they feel the Cavaliers are the only team that have a shot at tearing them down. I still say Kawhi Leonard in the lineup in San Antonio comes out of the West last year, but that's woulda, coulda, shoulda. So the bottom line is this. You got to scrap the bench. These guys are brought in for one reason and one reason only. Darren Williams was just a huge disappointment in the playoffs. Corver needed to hit one shot and couldn't do that. So the bench has to get young and athletic, and it will be quote-unquote cheap when it comes to money withstanding. You mentioned Carmelo. LeBron still wants to play with him in a bad way, so I expect him to come over in some way, shape, or form. There are names that I've heard besides Paul George I'm going to give to you, and I'm not on the air till 3 o'clock, so you're getting them before me. But other names I'm hearing, Jimmy Butler and the inevitable Boogie Cousins, because now New Orleans is saying, wait a minute, we got Boogie Cousins, but him and Anthony Davis somewhat the same player. We can't have the same player on the floor at the same time. They'll get in each other's way. So we'll see what happens. But the Cavs will be active.
Dude, you got real first world problems out there right now, right? Like you've got real relevant sports teams for a long period of your 38 years. You've not had these kinds of situations where the Indians are in first place and need a fifth starter. The Cavaliers are trying to get back to the finals again. This is good times for Cleveland sports. I mean, despite the Browns notwithstanding.
I mean, it's unbelievable times. The only thing is we got to get the guys that play football. And Nestor, here's the reason why. That is what still is everybody's
I know.
DNA. I could turn off. I could mention a Browns thing today, bro. I would get 3 hours of Browns calls. I wouldn't get any Indians or Cavs.
Such is life in the land of Cleve, where they always are. They're trying. Hey, we'll pick it back up in August at some point. Don't beat us up here too much this week, and we will be tribe watching all week long here in Baltimore.
Have fun. Take care of my boys in town.
You got it. He is Mark Munch Bishop. He is Munch Cleveland out on Twitter. 38-plus years in radio and TV, and as he likes to brag, he's never worked a day in his life. You can find him at Munch Cleveland out on Twitter. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. We had a busy week around here. You two running around, the Orioles at home, Ravens taking some time down. I'm monitoring the NHL draft and the schedule. I'm sort of looking at a 31 ice rinks in 31 days excursion next spring, but don't tell anyone. You can also find me anywhere the internet is served: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Nasty at WNST.net finds me, and the Peter Principles are now out online. 6 chapters now. I released chapter 6 on Monday morning. You can go check that out at WNST.net. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.